Good afternoon, everyone. The time is now 2 o'clock. We're going to get started. Welcome to Virtual Office Hours for October 4th, 2023. We're excited to see you all. In the chat, we know that fall is in the air. And in the chat, we would like you to place what are some new habits or hobbies that you are falling into during this time of year? I know for me, one of my new hobbies that I'm learning how to knit or crochet. I've never done it before. I've seen my grandmother do it in the past, but I've never done it before. So I'm excited about learning with my friend group that I hang out with. So in the chat, if you can drop some things in there. And I can't see the chat. So if anyone's sharing, Kim, gonna have to let us know.
They're being a little shy today, but I'm sure there's some coming. All right, Will has started us off. Now they're coming in fast. Will bought a startup knitting kit. He threw it across the room after 2 minutes. Will, that doesn't count. Daniel's current hobbies include hiring. He is also being very intentional about health and exercising. And he's actually shared some of that with me, and I need to take some tips from him.
I've been begging you to go exercise.
I'm coming.
And I was going to tell Rashonda, Keisha is an expert knitter. So if you need any pointers, Keisha has tried to teach me several times.
Well, Will needs some pointers. Lila is enjoying the fall weather, and she's able to cook some soup and enjoy that. I love sourdough bread, Stephanie. That doesn't go with my new healthy eating regime, but I do still love sourdough bread. Gabby is playing Hogwarts Legacy on PS5. Jenny was just telling us yesterday how much she's been enjoying playing Mario Kart. So gaming is a new thing.
All right. And as you all know, we're back again here in Virtual Office Hours. You can always just hop on the mic if you have a question or just raise your hand with the little raise hand icon and we'll get to you. And our agenda for today, I hope you already feel welcome. Lila's gonna speak a little bit about the Professional Learning Library and Human Capital and the Human Capital Dashboard. We're gonna have Beverly come along with frequently asked questions. And in the end, we're always open for questions and discussions. And you know who we're joined by. We're joined by our office leader, our fearless leader, Lila Mountain-Sager. We have Vicky, who is over PADEP, and Dr. Kim Howard, who is induction and mentoring, Beverly, special areas, and Jenny, who is our big data lady here in the office. And of course, myself, your SLO lead here in the office. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to pass the mic over to Lila.
Thank you so much, Rashonda. And I'll just give Jenny Henke a shout out for this section. She's prepared these slides on the Professional Learning Library, and she has been working tirelessly to partner with PowerSchool, who is the tech partner, and Ed Impact, who is the content partner for this work. But she doesn't have a voice today, so I'm going to try to do my best to share the information for you. We do think there were some issues last week with access to the PLL. We do think you all have access to the PLL now. So if that is not the case, or you have educators, particularly educators who weren't with you last year, who are having trouble getting into the PLL, please let us know. To access the PLL, just as a reminder, you can log in through SC Lead and then have your folks click on the Learning tab and then select Assignments and then Manage My Courses. And that will take you to the dashboard for the PowerSchool Professional Learning Library. You can also look at the library within SC Lead if you want to make assignments in there, if someone has permissions as an evaluator, a site administrator, or a district administrator. When you get to that PowerSchool dashboard page, it looks like this, and we want to draw your attention to way over on the right-hand side of the page. There are some help guides that can help you out. if you need help with specific features of the PLL. If you click on that courses tab, it looks like the screenshot on the right, and you can use that search bar to search for courses. And if we head to the next slide, some of the search tools that we've found to be effective include things like keywords. So if you use the keyword transition, for example, you're going to find courses that are transition from the military into the classroom that have just been added. And although we probably don't have a lot of folks you're hiring that are transferring from the military into the classroom, our partners at Ed Impact have designed for other states that have different alternative certification rules. Basically a series of courses for brand new teachers who don't have any teaching experience, but do have experience in the military. The content in those courses could be really appropriate if you have anyone who is a long-term sub who's coming in. If you search substitute in the search bars, you can also, there's some special courses just for substitute teachers. So that keyword search can be really useful for you. You can also look for tags by SCTS indicator, or you can do a search for a specific course if you know the title. If we check out the next page, we mentioned that we have added a new series of courses inside the Professional Learning Library for 2022-23 or 23-24, and we've updated the library. Some of those are those transition to teaching courses. There are some science of reading aligned literacy courses. So if you have some schools that, or some teachers who teach students who really need to focus on literacy skills, but perhaps they're not included in the teachers that are going through letters, or they've been asking you about accessing letters training, those PLL courses might be a great match for them. This new course is one that we want to highlight, though, that we're really excited about, and it's called the PLL Workshop course. This is a course that we designed and we actually used for our most recent PLL workshop. If you access it, you'll get access to all of the working document and workbook we used, as well as the courses that are there. To get into it, what you need to do is search PLL Workshop in that courses tab you just saw. Click on register and confirm that you want to register. Go to course to access it on the learner dashboard, and then all the resources will be available to you. If you check out this next page, this is what the learner dashboard looks like inside that course. So you can see that the course is laid out in a linear fashion, but of course you're welcome to access it in whatever order you want. This would just take you through the workshop the way that we went through it. We do think that the PowerPoints used in the workshop are really, really helpful for training, because they include kind of click by click steps that you can use there. The entire participant workbook is there. So if you wanted to take anyone through a workshop on the PLL in your district, you could use those resources to do that. And then the specific course links, there is a link out to video library, which highlights just the videos if you wanted a way to think about how to use those within professional development and not just use the courses. So we had some great feedback. We got some great work.
Jenny, can you pick up from here? Lula's
Rashonda,
frozen.
can you hear me? I'm back.
Okay, you're back. We can hear you.
Thanks so much. Sorry, I had an internet hiccup, but here I am back. On the next page, the other update we wanted to give you is during that workshop, we found out that there's some issue with access to reporting. So some people were following all the right steps for pulling especially ad hoc reports through the Professional Learning Library, and that they were reports that had empty data. When we explored this issue with PowerSchool, they explained that that's actually a module within all of professional learning for all of their clients that is having some permission issues that they are sorting through, and they're going to report back to us on Friday. But we asked them, in the meantime, people still want to run reports. So is there a way to do that? And this is the workaround that they shared with us. So Kim is going to drop into this chat the link to the help document to give you a quicker path here. But you can also just go through these quick steps. If you use the administration tab instead of that professional learning tab, it'll take you to a staff dashboard. You need to select your site on that left-hand sidebar. Choose course completion reporting if you want to do a report on who has completed courses. You can also filter, I think there's also a course registration tab if you just want to look at registrations. I've been told by the data expert there, every course in South Carolina's catalog has a T in it. So if you type T in the search bar and choose your date range, and then you can pick whether you want people who have just registered or people who have completed or both of those things. You can choose the date range you want to check. And then if you click on details, it will bring up a summary for you and you can download it as Excel. And that's really the most frequent report we've been pulling is who's done which courses and what is the status of those courses. If they've registered, have they completed them yet? So once you pull that down in a CSV, you'll be able to use Excel to filter that both by school and by course. So that's just some information we wanted to share on the PLL. If you have any other questions about that, please feel free to type them in the chat and we'll come back to them at the end of our time together, or feel free to reach out to Jenny. She's been really working hard on this to make sure that the PLL is as accessible and easy to use as possible. The next section we want to share with you is some updates on overall effectiveness data. So we want to start by saying thank you so much for working so hard to get your ADEPT data in this summer and to get your PDEP data in this fall. We continue to see a downward trend in the number of educators for whom we just don't get any data. And about 5 years ago, that was not necessarily the case. We would see that go up and down and fluctuate year to year, and we see that go down each year. And that's because you are checking on your principals and making sure they're entering their evaluation results and their observations. So we know that tracking down is difficult, and we appreciate you for all of that work that you do. When we look at the overall ratings, when we look at things aggregated up to the state level, really we see pretty consistent results from our evaluation instruments. From year to year, there's maybe only a 1 point fluctuation between the categories between 22 and 23 when we look at overall ratings. And those overall ratings, you'll remember, we see a big proficient there because any special areas educator who is evaluated in those non-formative and summative years, they're evaluated as met or not met. So met ends up in proficient. So that does bulk up proficient a little bit. For our teachers, they are sorted into the categories exemplary, proficient, needs improvement, unsatisfactory, based on their SLO score. And so again, if you have a teacher who isn't eligible for the SLO, or maybe they're on a teacher leadership goal, if they're met, they're going to end up in that proficient category. If they're not met, they're going to end up in that needs improvement or unsatisfactory category. Our SLO ratings year to year, again, we see very consistent in terms of the percentage of teachers earning an exemplary on their SLO versus proficient, needs improvement, and unsatisfactory. If we head to the next slide, though, this is where I think the data gets a little more interesting when we look at statewide trends, and this is our teacher evaluation data. So educators evaluated with the South Carolina Teaching Standards rubric at a formative or summative level. When we look at the average indicator scores for all of the observations across the state, the 3 indicators that score the highest are content knowledge, respectful culture, and environment. When we look at the 3 that score the lowest overall, it's thinking, questioning, and assessment. But then when we look at, well, what do observers pick out to talk with teachers about when they're going through the conference and they're talking about reinforcement and refinement? What are they checking? So the 3 top areas of refinement, or things observers think teachers need to work on in 22-23, were questioning was the highest. Next up was lesson structure and pacing, and then grouping students. And so we see questioning both is a lower scoring overall indicator, and it tends to be refined. I think part of this is just it's easy to observe. If you write and gather evidence for, if you write down questions, it's really easy to see if they are varied, if they are deep, if they're going to a deep level of DOK. But I also think it's because that's really linked to, if we're thinking about that triangle between what the teacher says and does, what the students say and do, and those student outcomes, the questions can really drive those student outcomes. If you are curious, I don't like to always just share what teachers need to work on. As far as reinforcement, observers across South Carolina, the 3 top areas of reinforcement were presenting instructional content, activities and materials, and then motivating students. And those have been pretty consistent year to year, although presenting instructional content has shot up into there. It's not necessarily one we've seen in the reinforcement before. If we head to the next slide, it's similar data about our PDEP principal evaluation standards. And here is a place where shockingly we saw some change. The PDEP data has been really stable over the course at least of the past 6 or 7 years. And our overall levels of performance, which is that graph over on the right-hand side, are consistent with what we saw in 21-22. But we saw a little bit of change in our strengths and areas of growth. Ethical behavior, principles, professional development, and vision have been up in that top 3, although principles, professional development, and ethical behavior kind of shifted up a few slots this year. In areas of growth for the past 7 years, we've seen instructional leadership, effective management, and culture as the top 3. And this year, staff development came in as one of those top areas of growth. And so I think part of that is principals have taken a much more active role in developing their staffs and really trying to address some of the remediation that's happening in schools, some of the gaps that we're seeing post-COVID. And so you're doing something more and it's more observable, you might be getting more feedback from your teachers about it. It's probably also related to there being more and more required staff developments for teachers, and the principal is the person who is responsible for implementing that, putting it out there, making sure it's working for their faculty. Just because we don't always like to share, or no, we shared strengths and areas of growth. So I wanted to make sure I did that for principals as well. The next few slides are really to help you understand some of our data about recruitment and retention of educators from a big picture standpoint. And I won't spend too long on it, but I did present this to anyone who was at the HR fall conference for SCASA. And I always like to make sure that for this audience, if you weren't there, that you, Rashonda warned me that that would happen to all our devices. That if you weren't there, you get a chance to access this data as well. The first piece of data that we'll share is that our percentages of teachers on induction contracts have been really steady since 2017. We haven't seen a jump, at least in the folks that get Induction 1 conferences, but we've seen more variability in the number of new principals that come through the principal induction program. And this crop in 23-24 is about as large as we've seen it. So if we think they're roughly 1,200 schools, or 1,241 schools in South Carolina, 10% turnover in principals, or 120, might be about normal. This year we have more like about 150 new principals in South Carolina. So if we head to the next slide, the distribution of those new principals is also different. Normally, the green dots on this map represent every county for which we have a new induction principal. And there might be multiple principals in that county or in that district. Usually we see clusters, one year we might have more in the upstate and fewer in the low country. The next year we might have more in the low country, fewer in the upstate. What you see on this map is that in every area, every region of the state, we have dots. And so it's not principal turnover that's just happening in one place or happening over time to replace retirees, but we're seeing a lot of schools that have new principals. In fact, we have 16 districts that have more than 4 induction principals this year. And then we have 5 districts that have more than 6 induction principals this year. And so that is a large percentage of new principals. And we share that just because we think, particularly with recruitment and retention, new principals sometimes need support holding on to their teachers. And so we want to be conscious of who those new principals are and what we can do to support them, particularly with these human capital issues. On the next slide, this is really our pitch for drilling down from that statewide data. Because if we just look at report card data, and the report card data is about to be publicly released in about a week and a half for 22-23. If we look, for example, at a data point like percentage of teachers returning, if we just look at the statewide average, it's around 90%, and that's pretty good. That's about what we would expect for normal turnover in any industry. And if we even aggregate it out to, the highest schools, the schools with the most teachers returning, those are pretty close to 100%. Every year we have a school, at least one, that has 100% of their teachers returning. But if you're the lowest school in 21-22 and you only have 35% of your teachers returning, something different needs to happen to support that school, to perhaps support evaluations in that school and getting to know those teachers and onboarding in that school. Even if a lot of the new hires are experienced teachers, they're going to need different support. So knowing that being able to drill down your data and compare your data is important, we're really excited that we've been able to refine a tool that's available to you, which is the Human Capital Dashboard. So if we do the next click, the type of thing on this slide, the type of thing you can do in the Human Capital Dashboard is narrow this big data down to just your district and then drill in to specific schools. So you could look, for example, and see that the percentage of average vacancies in school 1 has reduced greatly from the previous year to this year. You can see that all of your schools in your district are actually making progress on this data point, which is perhaps more informative than looking at it in the aggregate. So here's how you get to the Human Capital Dashboard. If we head to the next slide, you'll go to the State Department website at ed.sc.gov. You'll log in that upper right-hand corner, and you'll click on Human Capital Dashboard. And then if we head to that next slide, if you are in one of the tabs, there's a tab for students, a tab for teachers, and then a tab for Workforce Outlook. Most of the data that comes through SC Lead and is the report card data on retention is on that Workforce Outlook tab. It has things like percentage of teachers out of field, percentages of effective and ineffective teachers. And it has this data point, average number years experience for the principal at the school. If you click your district's name and then you click the down arrow on the right-hand side, it will drill down and allow you to look at your school by school data. You can also see data for all of the other districts in the state. So if you scroll to your district, you can look around and see districts that are kind of in similar places to you. And by using the teacher and student demographics tabs, you can also narrow down schools that might be similar in terms of demographic composition to schools in your district. So we hope the combination of that data helps you get some more perspective on where you are with some of these data points. If we head to the next slide, just our last reminder to you, there was a memo that came out last week about what to do with purchase service teachers. And the punchline is that for purchase service teachers, who are teachers that are hired by your district, but not paid through your district payroll. So perhaps you're working with Elevate K-12, or you're working with another online provider, or you're contracting out some special ed services with a contracting company. For those purchase service teachers, you're not required to do formal ADEPT processes on them, but you are allowed to do ADEPT on them because they are teaching in your system. You have to do some kind of observation on them. You need to go see them and make sure that that instructional quality, even though it's being contracted out, is there. We are seeing with this data, which is longitudinal from 2018 to 2023, we are seeing spikes in both vacancies and the numbers of teachers leaving the profession, which leads to more of our workforce that are maybe not quite certified. They're working on a praxis. They haven't gotten there yet. We're hiring more December grads as quickly as we can and kind of making first semester work. We have late hires who are starting all throughout the fall, and you'll probably have folks starting every month of the spring. For all of these teachers and purchase service teachers, they might not work very neatly into your existing induction and mentoring or onboarding processes. And so we would love to know if there's anything we can do, or there are any creative ideas you've come up with to actually support these folks who don't slot into normal processes. So if you're willing to share how you make sure that purchase service teachers, late hires, folks who are not quite certified but are actually working as teachers of record are not slipping through the cracks, we'd love to hear those strategies, or if there's anything in that process we could do to make it easier, we'd love to hear that feedback in the chat as well. But we're going to transition at this time to go through some issues we're seeing as frequently asked questions. And I think I'm passing the mic to Beverly.
Thanks, Lila. Yes, to cover some of the most frequently asked questions that we've received in the office in the last couple weeks, deal mostly with special areas. And so we wanted to address several issues that have arisen in the last day or two, as well as some questions that we've been getting frequently. So the questions are, how can I recover my username and password for SC Lead? SC Lead will not allow our office to recover your password. You will have to send in a support ticket to support@sclead.org. There's also a phone number and a link to the online support form at the bottom of the login page in sclead.org. So if that's SC Lead's username and password, that's how you would get that. The same applies to NIET. If you need to take your recertification test and you're not sure how to reset your password and you don't remember what your login is, you would need to reach out to support@niet.org. As far as the Moodle platform, if you cannot remember your password or username, you would need to email me. So that would be bflythe@ed.sc.gov. I can't reset your password, but I can help you figure out how to navigate that system. Why aren't educators showing up when I'm trying to build an evaluation team for special areas? More than likely, if the evaluator is not showing up, the evaluator has not been submitted to Dr. Howard. The special areas manager has several responsibilities. The first responsibility is to get folks registered in their evaluator training in Moodle. The second responsibility, once those educators complete that training and have a certificate of completion, that trained special areas manager is supposed to verify that certificate before adding their name to the spreadsheet that is then submitted to Dr. Howard. We are only from now on accepting the spreadsheet from the identified SAM. If you have had a change in your SAM, we've asked you to communicate that to me. I haven't heard from a lot of you, so if you please will verify with me who your SAM is for your district so that we will know who to expect that from, and we can verify that you've been trained as a special areas manager. There can only be one per district, and you have to be trained. In that vein, also, we ask that you please verify that the evaluator has completed the training. They will have a completion certificate once they finish in Moodle, and it is a PDF that they can save, they can download, they can save to their desktop, they can email it to you, they can print it off and show it to you. But we do ask that you verify, you lay eyes on that certificate before you add their name to the spreadsheet to verify that they have completed the training. Once you've verified and you submit their credential information to Dr. Howard in the spreadsheet, and there is a specific spreadsheet only shared with the special areas managers. Also in that spreadsheet, it contains the certificate ID number. Please verify that that is their correct CID and that you're not tying that credential to their EID, which would then grant that credential to someone else that didn't take the training. So please verify those steps. All of those steps are in the directions that were provided to the special areas managers and are located on our website if you need a reminder. So there's that. Also, one of the other issues that we're having is we're getting communication from folks that think they're the special areas manager because they may have replaced someone that was the special areas manager, but they haven't been trained. If you are replacing a special areas manager or your role has changed, please communicate that with me so that I can coordinate and we can get you trained so that you can serve your folks in that capacity. Here's another one. I have submitted names for special areas evaluators, but they have not been added. If the names submitted were not completers, if they had not completed the course, or if for some reason we identify that that number is not their CID, or that some of the information is inaccurate, or if it's in the wrong spreadsheet, we cannot accept it that way. So again, that's why the special areas managers have been trained in this, and we ask that if there are any changes to the role, you let us know. But please, if you are the special areas manager, we appreciate you and we know that you are inundated with other tasks, but we do ask that you consider the seriousness of this. One, we don't need to be assigning renewal credits to folks that didn't do the work. And we certainly don't want to have any situations where we've got someone evaluating an educator who has not been evaluator trained. So we need to verify those trainings have been completed. And as always, if you have any questions about the special areas, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I did want to mention one other thing. I spoke this morning at the School Counselor Regional in Spartanburg, and one of the topics that came up right before I took the stage was I had an educator who called me who was a school counselor from one of our districts and needed some support. They had been told that they would be evaluated with the 4.0 rubric because no one in their building was school counselor evaluator certified. So please, 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 my ADEPT folks and my contract folks, please make sure that your special areas folks are being evaluated using their evaluator model and their ADEPT model and not the Teaching Standards 4.0. That's not their area. And so it would be very hard, I would think, to evaluate a school counselor or a librarian using the 4.0 rubric. Not impossible, but let's invest in them and show them growth using their particular model. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
And now we're wrapping it up. If there are any questions, just hop on the mic and we're here to answer questions for the rest of the session. And if there aren't any questions, here on this page, you can find all of our contacts, how you can reach us, and our buckets that we have here in the office. And if there are any questions, thank you for joining us, and you can go ahead and log out, but we'll sit here for a minute in case anyone wants to chit chat. You all have an amazing day.
Hi, this is Terry from Charleston. Will you be sending us this PowerPoint?
The virtual office hours PowerPoints, they're loaded on our website. It'll be loaded probably within the next week.
Perfect, thank you.
Good afternoon. I guess I wanted to chit chat. Listen, I do have a few quick questions. That data that was shared with the, oh, I forget the terminology off the top of my head. We're contracting someone who's not paid by our payroll. Is the data you had the word teacher, was that just a broad term for educator, or did that include speech or speech language pathologist? That's where we have our most, is with speech.
It includes both. The term is purchase service teacher because that's what it's called in the compensation system, but it
Right.
should probably be purchase service educator.
Purchase service educator. Okay, there's not an issue. Did you happen to have that broken down maybe by like special education teacher or speech language professional or something like that? Cause I would be curious on some of those numbers.
That's what's hard, Daniel, is in compensation, they're only reported under that code 46. And actually, because they're not compensated by your district, some districts don't enter them in compensation at all. So that was part of the rationale behind the memo, was trying to get some of that data. So I don't have a breakdown, but you probably know for your district how many of those folks are classroom-based teachers versus special ed providers versus other specialties.
Right. All right. Okay. All right. On the thank you for that. Purchase service educator. I'll get that to roll off my tongue someday. So thank you.
I mean, I think the big point is, and kind of the backstory, I didn't want to go too deep into because people might not care, but here we are. We've been getting more calls and disciplinary actions against folks that fall into this category, or folks who have broken the law or have done something unsafe with a student who fall into this category. And so we're encouraging districts to have some due diligence and some scrutiny around them, even though you're hoping the companies you hire from do some of that due diligence and scrutiny. If they're with our students, we're responsible for the quality of their work.
Thank you. And maybe I'm using an old document, but I've been receiving for the Miss Go for Beverly for the special areas, and I've been sending those spreadsheets into Kim. I've been issuing the hours off of that template that was provided for the certificate. In fact, I've always just do like 4 hours and I do dash like school counselor. You know, I use like SC or SPL for speech language professional or SL for librarian. So I know which one was which. But it has a signature at the bottom for someone that's no longer with you all. So I didn't know if y'all wanted to update that, or am I just or you have, and I'm just using an old document.
We have, I think we have one new one, but my understanding when I asked last was that one would be recognized. Lila, do you have any contradicting information?
I don't
just
really have an issue
affirm
with
that
it.
Tess has told us previous documents will be honored, but Beverly,
Right.
is what you're saying you've uploaded a new one in Moodle or in the SAM folder?
No, I don't. We did quit using that Google folder because so many people couldn't access it. So I email it to them directly. I believe I sent one that has Brandon's signature on it. But again, Tess said that they would honor either one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one for this year will get one of our signatures on. So when Beverly sends that out, it'll be.
And it hasn't been an issue. I just never would want it to turn into some sort of odd issue that none of us anticipate, and heaven forbid if someone's got time to read. I just didn't want to create any problems. So I don't have an issue with it, but thank you. So, and appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Am I
Dr.
me?
Warren.
Okay, I just want to tell you, thank you for that sample GBE Go for counselors. I just sent it to a school principal right before we got online, and it was really appreciated. It was great. It was simple. What didn't have a lot of fluff, but we could add to it or take away from it. But thank you very much for that.
You are very welcome.
Y'all have a great one.
You too, Dr. Warren.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So Willa, is it your recommendation? I know it's kind of worded up to the district, but is it your recommendation that we just follow the ADEPT process for these contract people like we do for our other ones?
I think it's whatever's easiest for you. I can see the advantage of just doing informal observations on them and giving them feedback, especially if it's situations where you only have one internet teacher and all the other kids in a grade level maybe have brick and mortar teachers or in a subject area. I think I'd want to give that person more frequent feedback and kind of set that up as my principal's responsibility, like make sure this online class is going well. But if your district wants to make sure you're consistent, probably putting them through the ADEPT process is the easiest thing to do. We have had some districts push back and say, you know, technically this is what it says in the regulation, and we want to incentivize especially early career teachers to actually be hired by us and not a service provider, so we can take them through ADEPT and help them get to a professional certificate. So that's the choice we sometimes hear districts make, is they want to reserve that for people who are employed by their district as kind of a perk for being hired by their district.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Lila, there's a question in the chat about, does LETRS training replace a Read to Succeed course for an early childhood teacher?
This is an excellent question for the Office of Early Learning and Literacy. I don't think so, but I don't know. So I will put the email address for Dr. Abby Duggins in there. There is also, we're in a weird place. There was a proviso about Read to Succeed this year, which is a one-year law. I think they're going to crack open that law and rewrite it around science of reading. They tried last year. I think they'll try again this year. So I think whatever we're dealing with this year will be a one-year. But I will put Abby's information in the chat so I don't give you misinformation about that.